putting you under her spell. Here's your look at the Kotobukiya DC Comics Bishoujo statue of Zatanna. This is the second edition of Zatanna, a 1/7 scale pre-painted figure. Kotobukiya brings you a new art collection designed by Shinya Yamashita, a well-known Japanese illustrator and game designer, famous for his beautiful female characters. Before we get a closer look at this spectacular looking release of Zatanna, we're going to first figure out how tall the figure stands, how tall the statue stands. Considering a service, I'm more than happy to oblige to you members of the mob. Taking the tape measure right to the very top, I know what you're thinking. Why did you go way past her head? The reasoning for that is I actually went to the tips of her pinky finger, as that certainly is the highest point on the statue. No sleight of hand, I can tell you that the figure is 9.8 inches in height. And switching that over to members that enjoy their statues in centimeters, happy to oblige with that as well. You're looking at a statue standing almost 24.9 centimeters in height. If you're successful to pick up this statue for yourself, congratulations. Just a beautiful, like I said, release of Zatanna. But you'll know yourself, so let me also tell the other individuals that have not picked this up for themselves, because you already know after all. When you get this out of packaging, the one bit of assembly that's required is adding her magical wand. It looks like it's been done in black plastic, and they've tipped the ends of the wand in almost a buttery beige color. Simplicity is best, and I'm glad actually that this is something that you had to add to the statue. It just really meant that there would be no risk of this bending, breaking while it was still in the packaging. So let me just show you how this gets assembled. Couldn't be any bit easier. Just take the wand like so, put it underneath her two fingers, and line it up so it's resting against her thumb. A simple twist. That's all it takes. You don't have to apply any bit of pressure, really. And the wand sits very securely in Zatanna's hand, and it's not going to go anywhere. As I said, I'm glad that they did this as something that has to be added and not part of the statue already. This can guarantee you at least the statue's wand isn't going to break, and very little involved. I mean, you saw it with your own eyes. There's very little involved to add the wand into her hand. As for the statue itself, no further assembly is required. She's already assembled to her base. A circular display stand decked out in glittery purple. It really looks splendid. I like the choice of metallic purple that they went with. The Zatanna raised Z or Z, depending on where you're located in the world, has been put on the base itself. It's been screwed in there, so you can't remove the statue. I don't really know why you would want to remove it from the base itself anyways, because it's not a statue that would be able to support herself, and she really is only standing on the actual front of her foot. The heel is there as well, but clearly would not be enough to hold the statue in place. So, like the fact that the statue is already affixed to the base, and that's as good of a place as ever to have it. Now, this is a statue I've been really wanting for a while. This is the second edition of Zatanna, and having not owned the first initial release of Zatanna, I can't tell you what the differences are. I can't imagine that there really is a difference. Perhaps maybe the base might have been changed, but I think it's a 100% re-release carbon copy to the one that we had gotten before. What we had gotten before, or what we certainly have gotten now, is just a beautiful looking Zatanna. You probably know from the countless videos that I've done on this channel, Kotobukiya is usually my one go-to, one of two go-tos when it comes to statue releases. Affordable, these statues will only set you back a little over $100, but the trade-off for that is, like I said, a beautiful rendition of, in this case, Zatanna, but they've certainly covered off many of the DC heroines and DC villains alike. A quick turnaround, and of course we'll start our attention and focus our attention on the face, and we'll work our way down. Got a nice, really pretty face on Zatanna. A small touch. I like the fact that they actually had the mouth open a little bit, showing some visible teeth. They could have easily kept the mouth closed, but it just adds a little bit of extra life, I find, to the face. Something else that adds a lot of life to the face is that little bit of shimmer. Shimmer and shine, that little bit of light reflecting off the corner of her pupils. Crystal blue eyes are met back at you when you stare into the eyes, the stare of Zatanna. She's got these really vibrant blue eyes that look glorious on this statue release. Further moving our way intention around, you can see the individual curls and the way almost even like the hair itself has a life to itself, stretching and spanning its way out almost as if it's grabbing you in these individual arms, almost like tentacles of hair, really, when you look at it. There's no additional color that's been added here, and don't really feel like extra color is necessary either. Yes, they could have added a little bit of blue for highlights, but I really don't think a statue like this is needing it. Often at times, when you really look at a lot of the Kotobukiya Bishoujo releases, they keep like the paint very simple, and simple in this case I think works best. Could they have added some additional shading on, say, the undertails of her jacket? Perhaps, but I really think keeping it primary to only one color is really the best route. And so far it seems to have worked for the company, because many of their Bishoujo releases keep to one color, and that color I think works best. So like things like her jacket, you don't see any additional shading. Perhaps, if anything, you could say that there's a slightly darker shade of black on the interior, but I think it's actually just one color that they've used. The color is a nice backdrop. The black is certainly a nice backdrop to the bright yellow of her vest, the very bleached white of her frilled shirt. She's also got her rose present there on her lapel. When we move further out, her gloves actually seem like they're one shade of white different than the actual cuffs coming out from the tips, from the ends of her sleeve. I noticed this actually when I'm looking at this glove and I compare it to the sleeve here. It almost seems as if like this could be white plastic and this could be painted white. And maybe that's why the whites look different from one another. Just a small thing I noticed. Of course, inside her hat would be numerous different spells that she could cast, all said backwards. Here, there's nothing actually in the hat, or is there? Actually, there isn't. There's nothing in the hat. The hat is held well in place by her hand, and like I said, the way that they've angled the form of the statue, you can see it as if she's about to summon off something. Perhaps something is about to come out of her hat. I actually like that they went with the hat being off of her head. Zatanna has been displayed in both cases. A couple of different statues released have had Zatanna with the hat on her head. I actually kind of like this because it tells the story. It shows as if she's about to, like I said, something is going to be coming out of the hat. It's just a question of what that is. The little band of red is also a nice touch, which mimics the same sort of red that's on the undertail of her long-tailed jacket. This is something also that we've seen with the horror Bishoujo release of Freddy Krueger. They've actually incorporated real meshing to her thighs. It only is in this section of her outfit, whereas the rest of the outfit is just done in the black plastic. I kind of like when they do have the opportunity to make use of a meshing like this, as it's made a couple of appearances, not many, but a couple of appearances on the horror Bishoujo, well, of the Freddy Krueger and the horror Bishoujos, and the regular Bishoujo statues as well. Like with fishnet stockings, you can see the seam line that's done on the back. Initially, I felt perhaps it was a little bit too broad of a line where the meshing has been seamed together. Although where it's been placed on the backs of her legs, and like regular fishnet stockings, there would be a seam line somewhere on the actual tights themselves. So I like that they kept them at least in the same place, located on the back. It's obviously looking as if it was intentional here. Like I said, most, if not all, the coloring is singular, so even like her legs, for example, don't have any additional lighting or shading added to it. I really don't think it was necessary. The sheen of it, it seems like there's a little bit more of a reflection coming off of her legs, actually, than that of her jacket. The jacket is kept very matted, and I like that. In fact, even under the studio light, it's really only her hair that's casting light, as well as her leggings, her boots, her thigh-high boots. Whereas, like I said, the jacket itself is kept very matte, and I like the contrast of the two different types of black. Now, certainly, this isn't my first rodeo when it comes to Bishoujo statues, having collected all at one point the horror Bishoujos, and I've reviewed all of them on this channel, and then sporadically I've had a look at other ones from Street Fighter and DC. Never really touching too much on the Marvel Bishoujos. Certainly that will change as the availability becomes more, well, available. One of the takeaways you'll probably have seen enough on this channel for me to say is that I really like, and one thing I think Kotobukiya nails is the pose. Like that. They seem to pick that character, and they say to themselves, well, what would Zatanna, for example, be known for while casting spells? And they seem to pick a perfect pose for something like that. She's, of course, pulled off her hat. She's waving her wand in front of it, and she's going to be summoning off a spell. Yes, you can add on to the fact that she's got the bit of the sultry leg bent, but I think that's a perfect pose for me for displaying, or what I would have wanted to display Zatanna for doing. Of course, above and beyond all of that, she's still got a lot of life and personality for the fact that she's got like the tailed jacket. It's not draping down, and I like that. I also like the fact that there's a little bit more energy and excitement to her hair. So above and beyond simply just displaying her with her hat out, you can see Kotobukiya adds a little extra oomph to their statues. And it's the oomph that has me continuing to come back and pick up more Bishoujo releases. For final looks, I've decided to display the side of the box so you guys can see this exquisite illustration of Zatanna. I wouldn't necessarily say that it was the groundwork for what the statue was based from. Probably likely was the other way around. Once they had designed the statue, they got a talented artist in who drew out an illustration of Zatanna, but you can kind of really see how the two are so close to one another, having a very similar pose, and it kind of gives you a good little sneak peek of what the statue is going to look like before you eventually get it out of the box. Zatanna is a character that, truthfully, I grew up with, but didn't really know too much about. I saw her odd little appearances here and there in some of the Justice League issues I was picking up, but I was really picking up those issues for more like the main characters, a Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, for example. Over the years of me reviewing, I always talk about Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and even Batgirl as some of my favorite DC vixens. And often at times I feel so bad I leave off Zatanna. Zatanna, while like I said, I didn't grow up really knowing too much about the character, it wasn't until she was introduced to the cartoons like Batman the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited that I really developed a strong love for this character. I really like the idea that she's a female magician, and again, that can come in handy. And I also really like the idea that she would summon her spells backwards, a nice little added touch to this character. Unfortunately, like I said with the Kotobukiya Bishoujo releases, or even like horror Bishoujos or any Bishoujo releases, in the case of the Zatanna here, I didn't get a chance to get the first edition. Kind of regretted it after the fact. Kotobukiya is one of the few companies that re-release their pieces though. So I would say, if you're maybe like myself who never got a chance to pick up, say, a certain statue before, maybe hold it out. Hold out hope. I held out hope that maybe we would get another edition of Zatanna because I never got the first one, and I really didn't want to pay the extra inflated cost of getting her online like places like eBay. So I held out hope, and luckily, like other Kotobukiya releases, they released a second edition, which I jumped at immediately. Yes, I probably could have ordered this one through my local comic book store, but I just couldn't wait. As soon as I saw this one online as a second edition, I immediately grabbed it, and that's why we're having a look at her right now. If you did manage to pick up the first edition, or even like the second edition like I did, let me know what you guys think of the statue in the comments section down below. Or maybe like you never got a chance to pick up, for example, the Kotobukiya Zatanna based on this review. And this review alone, let me know what you guys think of this statue release in the comments section. I always like reading your comments. Speaking of which, also, if you guys wanted to go back and have a look at some of my other Kotobukiya statue reviews, there's playlists that you can get a gander at and check out all the various different Bishoujo releases and the various different statue reviews that I've done for Kotobukiya. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't done so already. Swing on over and make sure you hit that bell notification if you haven't done so already. And stay tuned, because we're going to have a look at other Kotobukiya statue reviews on this channel. Stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next time.